Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this channel. Today, we are going to be reviewing the book Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Now, let's look at the authorial background of the texts. Chinua Achebe, born Albert Chinua Lumogu Achebe, 16 November 1930 to 21st March 2013, was a Nigerian novelist, poet, and critic who is regarded as a central figure of modern African literature. The first novel, Things Fall Apart, occupies a pivotal place in African literature and remains the most widely studied, translated, and read African novel. Born in Ogidi colonial Nigeria, Achebe's childhood was influenced by both Igbo traditional culture and post-colonial Christianity. He excelled in school and attended what is now the University of Ibadan, where he became fiercely critical of how Western literature depicted Africa. Moving to Lagos after graduation, he worked for the Nigerian Broadcasting Service (NBS) and gathered international attention for his 1958 novel, Things Fall Apart. Winning the 2007 Man Booker International Prize. From 2009 until his death, he was Professor of African Studies at Brown University. Achebe's work has been extensively analyzed, and a vast body of scholarly work discussing it has arisen. In addition to his seminal novels, Achebe's novel includes numerous short stories, poetry, essays, and children's books. A titled Igbo chief himself, his style relies heavily on the Igbo oral tradition and combines straightforward narration with representations of folk stories, proverbs, and oratory. Among the many themes his works cover are culture and colonialism, masculinity and femininity, politics, and history. His legacy is celebrated annually at the Chinua Achebe Literary Festival. That is all about the authorial background. Now let's go into the textual background. Things Fall Apart is the debut novel of Nigerian author Chinua Achebe, first published in 1958. It depicts the events of pre-colonial life in Igbo land, a cultural area in modern-day southeastern Nigeria, and the subsequent appearance of European missionaries and colonial forces in the late 19th century. It is seen as an archetypal modern African novel in English and one of the first such novels to receive global critical acclaim. It is a staple book in schools throughout Africa and is widely studied in English-speaking countries around the world. The novel was first published in the United Kingdom in 1958 by William Heinemann Limited and became the first work published in Heinemann's African Writers series. The novel follows the life of Okonkwo, an influential leader of the fictional Igbo clan of Umuofia. Among other things, he is a feared warrior and a local wrestling champion. The novel is split into three parts, with the first describing his family, personal history, his violent exterior and tortured soul, and the customs and society of the Igbo. The second and third sections introduce the influence of European colonialism and Christian missionaries on Okonkwo, his family, and the wider Igbo community. Things Fall Apart was followed by a sequel, No Longer at Ease, originally written as the second part of a larger work, along with Arrow of God. Achebe states that his two later novels, A Man of the People and Antilles of the Savannah, while not featuring Okonkwo's descendants, are spiritual successors of the previous novels in chronicling African history. The title is a quotation from The Second Coming, a poem by W. B. Yeats. Most of the story takes place in the fictional village of Igwedo, which is in the Umuofia clan. The place name Igwedo is only mentioned 3 times in the novel. Achebe more frequently uses the name Umuofia to refer to Okonkwo's home village of Igwedo. Umuofia is located west of the actual city of Onitsha, on the east bank of the Niger River in Nigeria. The events of the novel unfold in the 1890s. The culture depicted, that of the Igbo people, is similar to that of Achebe's birthplace of Ogidi, where Igbo-speaking people lived together in groups of independent villages ruled by titled elders. The customs described in the novel mirror those of the actual Onitsha people who lived near Ogidi and with whom Achebe was familiar. Within 40 years of the colonization of Nigeria, by the time Achebe was born in 1930, the missionaries were well established. He was influenced by Western culture, but he refused to change his Igbo name, Chinua, to Albert. Achebe's father, Isaiah, was among the first to be converted in Ogidi around the turn of the century. Isaiah Achebe himself was an orphan raised by his grandfather. His grandfather, far from opposing Isaiah's conversion to Christianity, allowed his Christian marriage to be celebrated in his compound. Achebe wrote his novels in English because he felt that the written standard Igbo language was stilted, which he connected to the fact that the standard was deliberately created by combining various dialects. In a 1994 interview with the Paris Review, Achebe said, "The novel form seems to go with the English language. There is a problem with the Igbo language. It suffers from a very serious inheritance which it received at the beginning of this century from the Anglican mission." They sent out a missionary by the name of Dennis. He was a scholar. He had this notion that the Igbo language, which had very many different dialects, should somehow manufacture a uniform dialect that would be used in writing to avoid all these different dialects. Achebe's choice to write in English has caused controversy, while both African and non-African critics agree that Achebe modeled Things Fall Apart on classic European literature. They disagree about whether his novel upholds a Western model or in fact subverts or confronts it. Part 1. The novel's protagonist, Okonkwo, is famous in the villages of Umuofia for being a wrestling champion. Okonkwo is strong, hardworking, and strives to show no weakness or fear. He is characterized as being starkly different from his father, Unoka, who had been a debtor, unable to support his wife or children, and who preferred playing his flute over conflicts. Okonkwo therefore works to build his wealth entirely on his own from a young age, as his father had not left him any inheritance. Okonkwo is also obsessed with his masculinity, and he works hard to hide any emotion other than anger. As a result, he often beats his wives and children, and he is unkind to his neighbors. However, his drive to escape the legacy of his father leads him to be wealthy, courageous, and powerful among the people of his village. He is a leader of his village, Umuofia, having attained a position in his society for which he has striven all his life. Okonkwo is selected by the elders to be the guardian of Ikemefuna, a boy taken as a peace settlement between Umuofia and another clan. The boy lives with Okonkwo's family, and Okonkwo grows fond of him, although Okonkwo does not show his fondness so as not to appear weak. The boy looks up to Okonkwo and considers him a second father. The oracle of Umuofia eventually pronounces that the boy must be killed. Ezeodu, the oldest man in the village, warns Okonkwo that he should have nothing to do with the murder because it would be like killing his own child. But to avoid seeming weak and feminine to the other men of the village, Okonkwo disregards the warning from the old man, striking the killing blow himself. For many days after killing Ikemefuna, Okonkwo feels guilty and saddened. Shortly after Ikemefuna's death, things begin to go wrong for Okonkwo. He falls into a depression and has nightmares. During a gun salute at Ezel